How do, folks? It's Harrison with Mainely Acres Farms, and thank you for joining us on another video today. As you guys can see, we're out here in the office. I got my studio lights going, and I'm ready to make a new video for you guys. Today's video is going to be on a new stand and setup that I set up for my Chinese sewing machine here. I know a lot of you guys have been interested in this video coming out, so I do apologize that it's taken so long, but it took me a little while to figure things out, and also I had to run it for a while to see if this is something that I wanted to share with you guys. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the new stand and why or why not to make something like this for yourself, and to also talk about some projects that I have coming up that I'm going to be working on, and go from there. So let's bring you guys in real close so you guys can see all this fun stuff that we have going on over here. Now that I have you guys nice and close, I want to talk to you guys about why you would want to set up like this, and to talk about the reason why I chose this style here. So if you guys are interested in creating your custom Air Force Ones and Nike shoes, which a lot of you guys are interested in, I know, because I do a lot of tutorial videos to help you guys get these machines up and running, and it seems like about 90% of those videos are people working on those sneakers, and I think that's really cool, and I think that you guys should definitely check out this video, because this type of setup here is really what you need for doing those types of projects. Now, what do I mean by that? Why is this better than any other type of setup that I've seen out there? Well, the reason being is because this type of a setup and stand allows you full mobility around this lower sewing arm here. So just to give you guys a little demonstration of that, here's a old pair of sneakers I use for cutting the grass here, and I'll just demonstrate how easy it is to get this shoe on there, get it lined up, drop the presser foot, and now I have two hands to hold the shoe on here and work the speed with my foot so I can have full control over what I'm doing. And if I wanted to, say, you know, work on something down here in the toe, like say I wanted to follow this stitching line here, I'm able to do that by pulling this back on the bar and getting it on there. And as you guys can see, the way that it's on there, it doesn't interfere with any of the other working parts on the machine. So it's really being able to utilize this lower sewing arm for what it was made and designed for, which is shoe repairs and things of that nature. So we'll go ahead and slide this off and show you another good purpose for having this stand here. And it's also good for working with hats. So if you guys are felting your own hats like this, or you're sewing patches onto your hats like this, this is another good setup, because once again, you can fit your hat over the end there. You got plenty of room down below, so it's not hitting anything. And if you're taking it out this way or that way, you just have plenty of room to fully utilize the lower arm. Here with this felted hat, if I wanted to sew in a sweatband, look how easy that is. I can just put it right where I want it, drop the presser foot down, and once again I have two hands to hold my hat and go ahead and sew that sweatband in there. Now, for people that aren't working on, say, like hats or shoes and things of that nature, I really wouldn't recommend this stand to you. And the reason why I say that is because recently here I made a blanket, a large blanket for my father, and I used this setup in the machine to try to sew that, and it was I had a real hard time doing that because I didn't have a nice flat surface to work with. So if you guys are interested in making clothing, blankets and things of that nature, then you would want to mount this to a table like I had before, and even build up kind of a wooden stand up to this arm here to make a nice flat surface for you guys to work with. Now, you still can do some small projects, especially something like this is what I'm working on here. I'm making some insulated insoles for some rubber boots, and this is just some packing insulation that was left over from a package we received, and this is a piece of leather here that I traced out to their foot, and we can just simply put that on, get it into place where we want it, drop the presser foot, and now we're good to work around there. And once again, it's giving you both hands to work with here, so that way you have full control. So, you know, if you're doing small flat projects like this stand will work pretty good for you. But when you're doing the blankets, you're definitely going to have somebody in here with you, helping you to hold all that extra slack and try to work it through the machine. I found that when I was doing that, it actually bunched up a lot of my stitches because I wasn't able to lay it flat and feed it in there nice and straight. So once again, I would discourage you guys from doing something like this if that's what you're interested in. So let's talk real quick about the stand itself and what I made it out of and how we put it together. So scan right about here. So the main stock of the stand here is a 4x4 pressure treated post. I originally bought this for an outdoor project, but we didn't end up doing that project, so I borrowed it for this. And the length of this is 44 inches all the way to the ground. Now that dimension can be adjusted on your height or how you want to use your sewing machine. So if you wanted to use this while sitting down in a chair, I would definitely recommend to shorten that distance. But if you're looking to run your machine standing up or sitting on a stool, 44 inches is pretty good. It's right in level kind of with your chest, so you're not having to hold your arms up or down, and it just fits really nice. Now the 44 inches is kind of customized to me. I'm a little under 6 foot tall, so if you guys are about that tall, go ahead and stick with those. If not, you can adjust that. Alrighty, so now that we can see the back table here, this was basically added on to this stand to be able to mount the servo motor underneath here, and also to give me a nice little work surface, so if I wanted to put my thread holder and threads and things like that on there, I could do that. So the dimensions of this is 11 1/4 wide by 32 inches long, and that's really kind of the minimum measurements to house everything up here, so that's why those are the dimensions of that. I think that's pretty much going to be a standard if you guys build something similar to this. Also, kind of scroll down here, you guys can see I put in a triangle piece of plywood here to give it extra support so it doesn't bend and flex on me. And then also in the front, I added a piece of iron strip that went to the corner of the table in the front down to the main post that the sewing machine sits on. So you guys can see that the majority of the weight of the machine is pushing down and on this main load bearing pier here, if you will, and all that's really left for weight on this table here is the servo motor down here below and the lower pulley on that as well. So there's really not a whole lot of weight on here, but I would rather overbuild and make things extra steady than underbuild and have things flop around on me. So up here we have a nice groove cut out, and I have some pictures that I'll roll with you to share along with you while I'm doing the video. I have a pretty good groove cut out in here, and that's just to allow this large 11-inch pulley here to be able to fit in there and meet up with the servo motor down below. Alrighty, now that we know all about the stand and everything here, minus a few other things that I'll cover, let's see how this setup actually works. So what this is this is the Schmoker Industries kit that I'm running on this machine, and basically what comes with the kit is the extended drive shaft to take the drive shaft out here so it can meet in with the pulley. It includes the pulley, and I believe that's it. I think it does come with some hardware for attaching your hand crank on there, but that's the basic kit. I'll leave a link above this video and also down in the description below to where you guys can check out the review video that I did for Schmoker Industries, so that way you guys can get a real good idea. It's been a minute or two since I've shot that video of what comes with the kit. Also, I'm still running the little 3D printed knobs on here for adjusting the tension, and also the presser foot made by Mr. Alonzo for better control of the presser foot. And if you're interested in any of those, like I said, I'll leave the links down in the description for each one of those that I did a review video on, so that way you guys can check that out for yourself if that's something that you're interested in. So what I'm going to do real quick is go ahead and fire up the servo motor, and I just simply do that with a switch right here that I've mounted to the side pole here. You guys can get a little bit better of a picture of the servo motor that I'm using here. I think I've shared a video on this in the past, so I'm not really going to talk too much about that. This motor was actually donated to me from my friend Matt over at Bantam Saddle and Tack, so big ups to Matt over there for everything he does, and I'm definitely leaving a link down in the description so you guys can check him out. He mainly deals with these Chinese sewing machine setups. I don't know if he's ordered these motors yet to put them up on his website to sell with you guys, but if that is something that you're interested in seeing him put up on his webpage, then y'all can hit him up as well and give him some encouragement to go ahead and do that. So one last thing I want to scan down here at the very bottom here is just to show you guys how I built the legs to hold all this up and keep everything steady. I have 4 pieces of rough cut lumber down here at the bottom. They measure a foot in length, and I have a simple little plywood pedal that I put together here, and all that is a basic hinge that's screwed down here onto the bottom with a hole drilled in, so that way I could put a piece of cord in here to meet over with the servo motor to control the speed of everything. Now, the reason why I have this pedal set down so low like this instead of being set up like something like this is because I found that having it lower like this gives me better control over the pressure I'm putting on the pedal to adjust the speed, which I'll show you guys here in a minute when we start to run that. So just real simple, down here at the bottom of this pressure treated 4x4 we have 4 legs, a foot, and a little plywood pedal with a piece of string going to the control arm. So now we're back here up at the top. I just want to show you guys how this setup works on the machine. A lot of people were really concerned about controlling the speed of this, so they want a setup where they can just crawl the machine along if they want, and then be able to add more pressure to the pedal to get it sewing a bit faster. So I just want to show you guys how all that works. And so we'll start putting a little bit of pressure. Whoop, a little too much. Put a little bit of pressure on there to show you guys that we can get this machine just to crawl right along here. You guys can see I can really get that going slow. And operating these foot pedals, there's a little learning curve to that as well. As you guys can see, I'm not going to edit any of that out of the video. But it does take some practice in getting to know the feel of the pedal for running this, and it's just like any other sewing machine out there. I find that there are some sewing machine foot pedals that are more touchier than others. This setup here, I tried to get it to be kind of forgiving in that aspect. So here we'll try it one more time, just go real slow, and there we go. We can get it to crawl along that slow, and put some more pressure on it. And now we're running at the top speed that I set this servo motor to. Now I really want you guys to pay attention to my top speed, because I think this is probably the fastest you want your machine to be running on any type of motor setup that you use. And the reason why I say that is because, let's just face it, these machines really weren't meant to be motor driven. They were meant to hand crank along, so you really don't want to go over the speed of what you could do with your hand and hand cranking. And so that's why I think that this speed right here is about as fast as you want to go. Now taking it down, I mean, if I wanted to, I could really get slow with it. I'm trying to get there. Let's back it off, and there you guys go. You can really just crawl this machine along. Drop my presser foot down so that's not adding extra bit of tension. So, there we go. and that is maintainable, as you guys can see. I'm sitting here with it. I can go back and forth, and I can come back out with it, and that's something that we can do. So now that we know that, we know we can crawl with it, we can go fast with it, let's talk about the maintenance that you're going to want to be keeping up with, especially running a motor on your machine. So first and foremost, you are going to want to keep your machine lubricated. If you are running a motor on your machine, I would recommend lubricating your machine every day that you use it. I don't think within an 8-hour workday you would have to lubricate it multiple times. I think if you were to do it just once in the morning and then just clean things off when you wrap up things for the day and then re-lubricate it the next day, I think you guys will be solid there. And I will leave a link to a video that I put out in regards to lubricants that I use on the machine. But just to give you a real quick brief thing, I use the Hoppy's gun oil on these two oiling points here on the machine for the arms rocking back and forth, and I use a little bit of it on other places that move back and forth, like this leaper here at the top. But that's about it. And then for everything else, I use a nice thick grease, ball bearing grease, lithium grease, any type of grease like that that will stick real well to the materials and extend the lubrication of those. So like the Pitman rod here gets grease on it. My needle bar gets a thin layer of grease on it, and so forth and so on. So I just wanted to touch that. And also, when you're running your machine, you're going to want to take a look and make sure that none of your parts are wearing out excessively fast. If that does happen, then you're going to need to address those issues. But so far, with everything set up the way I have it on my machine, I really haven't ran into huge issues with it wearing down parts very quickly. Another thing that I want to touch on is the tension on the belt here. So it's an actual V-belt driven, kind of looks like one of these belts here hanging up on my back wall. Let's see if I can get that off without knocking everything. So it's just a basic V-belt. But you want to make sure that it's not too tight on the machine, because it really doesn't need to be tight to be able to run the operation of running your machine and everything. So I'd really make sure to check that out, because if you do put that too tight, you are going to be wearing out your servo motor in a fast fashion, and you will be causing extra wearage on the drive shaft. Now, one thing that I'll show you guys in a picture here to demonstrate, you want to make sure to have a mounted place for your drive shaft to come into to keep that all straight off onto the back side. And basically what I did was I used the bearing block that I built, which I've shared with you guys in another video, but on the back side of the pulley here, I have the original little cast iron piece that came with the machine, and that's basically, like I said, to keep that drive shaft straight and make sure that it's not bending and wobbling and all of that. So that is definitely something that I added after the fact of building this, but it is something very important to do in there. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much. Well, alrighty, so that's going to wrap us up for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give us the thumbs up and share if you thought this was real helpful. Also, check the description down below, because I have links down there and some of the stuff that I shared with you in today's video. And as always, guys, take care. Spend time with that family.